F1 drivers aren't real athletes. They just sit in a car and drive. That's not too different to what some people do on the highway. Actually, I used to believe that too. How does driving a car compare to Serena Williams, Usain Bolt, or LeBron James? Those are the real athletes. But if you look closely, you'll realize that F1 drivers display all of the features of an elite athlete. And it's my goal to convince you that there's more to appreciate in F1 drivers than sitting in a car. First of all, what defines an athlete? The word athlete has the Greek root athlon, meaning compete for a prize. With that definition, well, yes, F1 drivers would be athletes. They compete in a total of 20 races for the ultimate prize, the Drivers' Championship. But then, what about poker players? They compete every night, playing for a prize involving a lot of money. Does that make them athletes too? Of course not. It's because there are fundamental aspects that define an athlete. Merriam-Webster gives this definition of an athlete: a person who is trained or skilled in exercises, sports, or games involving stamina, physical strength, or agility. Stamina, physical strength, and agility. These are three key things that define an athlete. If I can show you these three things in F1 drivers, surely this will convince you that F1 drivers are as elite as athletes in other sports. Let's start off with stamina. People often comment that F1 drivers just sit around in their fancy cars and drive in circles. How hard can that be? Except, if you're not fit, you won't be able to handle the extreme conditions within an F1 car. One thing you'll need to have is a physically strong heart. Why? Well, because the heart rate of an F1 driver increases to a staggering 170 beats per minute. An average human has a resting heart rate of 60 to 100 beats. And you must also remember that their beating heart continues throughout the entirety of a 2-hour race. Other athletes, like marathon runners, have a heart rate of also 170 beats per minute. If you consider marathon runners to be elite athletes, why won't you put F1 drivers in the same category? Stamina? Check. Okay, moving on to physical strength. F1 drivers aren't physically strong in the traditional sense. They don't have showy biceps or chests like The Rock. That's because they need to keep slim, around 65 kilograms, so that they won't be too slow by being too heavy. Instead, the physical strength of F1 drivers lie in their neck and core muscles. In this video, Fernando Alonso, two-time F1 world champion, is cracking nuts, but not with his hands. He cracks nuts with his neck. Now, if that's not impressive, I don't know what is. When F1 drivers are braking from 300 to 0 km per hour, they experience a force called gravitational force, G. Normally, the weight of your head, including your helmet, is around 7 to 8 kilograms. However, when you brake, you experience an additional force of 5 Gs, which means that you essentially have 40 kilograms of force trying to rip your head off when you brake. If you didn't have strong neck muscles, your head would smash right into the driving wheel, just like this old lady. Look at how her neck is being flung around. Her neck muscles just aren't strong enough and she is experiencing whiplash. This is really dangerous for her, and I have no idea why she's allowed to do this. F1 drivers are able to resist this because they are elite athletes. I'm not sure if any other athlete will have as strong neck muscles as F1 drivers. Physical strength? Check. Agility. One way to test concentration and hand-eye coordination is by using a Batak reaction board. Buttons randomly lights up around the structure, and the goal is to hit as many as you can within 60 seconds. It's like whack-a-mole, but for athletes. In this video, two F1 drivers showcase their Batak reaction. An average bloke would manage around 50. F1 drivers between 70 to 80.
Reactions and peripheral vision are very important in terms of driving the car, but also racecraft and understanding your surroundings.
Agility, clearly impressive. Being able to react quickly in an environment with minimal signals is key to a successful race, particularly when you've got a driving wheel with more controls than this joystick. You've got to have your head in the game and be acutely aware of your surroundings. Like many other sports, F1 is about fine margins. A second's difference can determine if you're first or fifth. If you combine all these factors together, the hot temperature that they drive in, the physically exhausting conditions, the mental strain, and yet still have the capacity to drive at high speeds without crashing, how can you not respect their athletic ability? It's not an argument. F1 is a sport, and F1 drivers are elite athletes.